In this module, we'll compare Azure's Cloud HSM with traditional on-premises HSMs. You'll see how control, compliance responsibility, scalability, and availability shift between models, and how those differences affect cost, operations, disaster recovery, and real-world migration or hybrid strategies. You've already built a strong stack: HSM fundamentals, Azure services, secure architectures, hands-on provisioning, operations, monitoring, and compliance. Now we zoom out to the bigger picture. We'll compare Azure HSM options with classic on-premises HSMs, so you can make real enterprise trade-offs and prepare for multi-cloud strategy and the final capstone. When teams compare Azure HSM with on-premises HSM, they're really balancing control, risk, and agility. Azure HSM offloads hardware ownership, upgrades, and scaling, while still providing strong certified key protection and easy integration with cloud workloads. On-premises HSMs keep keys physically under your roof, which can simplify certain audits, but increases operational responsibility. The right choice depends on specific workloads, regulatory evidence required, and your organization's operational maturity. You can think of these deployment models as a spectrum. With Azure Managed HSM, Microsoft runs the hardware and core operations. You focus on using keys through Azure APIs. Azure Dedicated HSM gives you your own appliances in Azure. You manage configuration, access, and updates, while Azure handles power and facilities. On-premises HSMs put everything on you: purchase, racks, networking, upgrades, monitoring, and audits. Each option trades off fine-grained control against operational burden. This spectrum is really about who owns which responsibilities. With managed Azure services, Microsoft owns the facilities, hardware, and base platform resilience. You focus on keys, access policies, and monitoring. With dedicated HSM in Azure, you gain deeper administrative control, but Microsoft still runs the data center and hardware. On-premises HSMs push everything to you: physical security, maintenance, backups, firmware, and audit evidence. Clearly documenting these boundaries is crucial for operations, security, and compliance. Another way to look at it is, where does your vault live? With an on-premises HSM, your organization controls the room, the racks, the guards, and exactly who can touch the device. With Azure HSM, you trade that direct custody for Microsoft's physical security program and certifications. Dedicated HSM gives you your own hardware, but still inside Microsoft's building. Your decision should align with regulatory, contractual, and internal policy requirements for physical control. Administrative control is really about which identity system is in charge. With Azure Managed HSM, administrators authenticate using Azure identities. RBAC decides which actions they're allowed to perform, and those actions are centrally logged and governed. With dedicated or on-premises HSMs, control typically shifts to vendor tools, smart cards, or quorum procedures. Regardless of platform, design access, so roles are minimal, duties are separated, emergency processes exist, and everything is auditable. Maintenance responsibility also shifts between models. With on-prem HSMs, you own the entire maintenance story: planning firmware updates, requesting change windows, coordinating with vendors, keeping spares on hand, and managing end-of-life refreshes. That work drives staffing needs and downtime risk. With Azure Managed HSM, most of that shifts to Microsoft. Updates, hardware failures, and platform lifecycle are handled for you, while you focus on configuration, access control, and proving to auditors that controls remain effective. HSMs are only one piece of your compliance story. With Azure HSM, you can inherit a lot: Microsoft certifications, SOC reports, platform logs, and architecture descriptions become evidence for your auditor. You then layer on your own proof of key governance, monitoring, and incident response. On-premises, almost everything is on you, demonstrating physical security, device management, access control, backup tests, and operational procedures end-to-end. All of this adds up to two distinct operational models. On-prem, you carry the burden of hardware, facilities, staffing, backups, maintenance, and business continuity yourself. With Azure, you shift much of that to Microsoft, but you take on cloud governance, cost management, and shared responsibility compliance. A solid decision looks beyond sticker price and evaluates skills, maturity, redundancy, and downtime risk as part of total ownership. Scalability planning starts with hard numbers. For any HSM, you need to know cryptographic operations per second, peak traffic patterns, and how many keys you'll manage. Then layer in latency targets, region choices, and redundancy requirements. On premises, these metrics drive hardware purchases months in advance. With Azure HSM, they drive quota requests and deployment design. Finally, include rotation schedules, backup windows, and failover paths so capacity plans survive real-world incidents. High availability for HSMs is also about deciding who owns the complexity. On premises, you're responsible for redundant appliances, clustering, power, cooling, networks, and an entire secondary site. In Azure regions, private connectivity and built-in service resiliency provide much of that foundation. Your job becomes aligning RTO, RPO, latency, and data residency requirements, then designing backup, failover, and regular recovery testing around the specific HSM service you choose. Traditional HSM projects often move at the speed of procurement and facilities, not at the speed of development. Budget approvals, hardware lead times, data center readiness, and vendor schedules can easily stretch timelines to months. Azure changes that pacing. Provisioning is far faster, but you still need governance approvals, landing zones, private networking, and access models defined. For global rollouts, region choice, data residency, latency, and cross-border compliance matter, so standardized deployment patterns become essential. Migrating keys from an on-prem HSM to Azure is less about tools and more about decisions. Start by building a complete inventory and classifying each key by owner, algorithm, exportability, and compliance needs. That drives your options. Import, regenerate, rewrap, or keep certain keys on-prem. Next, test applications against Azure. APIs, latency, identity, networking, logging, and failure behavior. Then move in phases with pilots, dual running where needed, and a rehearsed rollback plan. Azure HSM and on-prem HSMs both secure keys, but they split responsibility very differently. Cloud favors manage scalability and availability. On-prem favors direct control and custody. Migration is a design project, not a lift and shift. Next, we'll compare Azure with AWS, then build a full Azure HSM solution.